You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. The room was buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses. My family was in full celebration mode, gathered around the long dinner table in our usual spot at the local Italian restaurant. My wife, Madison, was the center of attention as usual. She had that perfect smile plastered on her face, the one that made everyone else believe she was flawless, the one I had once admired, even adored. Tonight, though, it felt more like a mask. "Logan, you've got to be so proud of her," my brother Dave chimed in, raising his glass to Madison. "Look at this success. She's always been the smartest one among us." I tried to force a smile, nodding along like the proud husband I was supposed to be. Madison's career had taken off in a way I couldn't deny, but the whole thing felt like it was slipping away from me. She had a way of controlling the narrative, making everything seem like it was her idea, her effort. No one knew about the cracks that had started to form beneath the surface of our marriage. No one could see the toll it was taking on me. Madison leaned in slightly, her voice low enough that no one else could hear. Her fingers lightly brushed against my arm as she spoke, a calculated gesture meant to remind me that she was in control. "Don't forget, Logan," she whispered, her eyes cold and sharp despite the sweetness in her tone. "If you don't play your part, you'll end up with nothing. I can make sure of it. You know I can." I blinked, the chill from her words cutting deeper than I expected. The whole room was oblivious, laughing and toasting, celebrating her achievements, but my mind was reeling. Play my part, I thought, trying to keep my expression neutral. That had always been the game with Madison, me playing my part, staying in the background, keeping everyone happy while she built her empire. But at what cost? She was the one everyone praised. She was the one who ran the show. And I was just a supporting actor in her life, a man who had forgotten his own identity in the blur of her success. I had supported her through everything, her long hours, her endless meetings, the constant need for validation. I had played along, letting her wear the crown. But now, hearing her subtle threat, something inside me shifted. It wasn't a new threat. It wasn't even a new feeling, but tonight it hit differently. Her words were poison, dripping into my soul like a slow burn. I reached for my glass, lifting it with a practiced smile, swallowing the cold wine like it was poison too. The taste was sour in my mouth. My stomach turned. The laughter continued around me, the chatter filling the space, but it felt like I was underwater. My mind was racing, everything happening in slow motion. I had been here before, had let her manipulate me before, but tonight it felt like I was on the edge of something. I could feel it, the permanent crack forming inside me, the realization that Madison didn't just cheat on me physically, but emotionally and mentally. She had isolated me from the family, made me the villain in my own life. I glanced around the table, the laughter seeming so fake now. My family had no idea what was happening behind closed doors. No one knew how Madison had turned me into her puppet, how she had made me feel like I was the one at fault, the one who couldn't keep up. No one saw how she controlled everything, from the smallest decisions to the biggest moments. My mind drifted back to the night before. Her cold words, the way she dismissed my feelings, the way she made me feel small. That was the real Madison, the one who didn't need to lift a finger to break me down, because she knew just how to make me feel like nothing. And then, as if she could sense my thoughts, Madison tossed a slice of cake onto my plate. It wasn't a gesture of love or affection. It was a command, a demand, a reminder that she controlled everything. "Eat up, Logan," she said, her voice sugar-sweet as always. "You look like you could use some energy for tomorrow." I stared at the cake, the heavy sweetness almost suffocating. It wasn't just cake. It was a symbol of everything I had swallowed over the years. I had swallowed her insults, her control, her manipulation. I had eaten whatever she gave me, even when it tasted like poison. But this time, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to keep swallowing it, not anymore. But I said nothing. I played the part, smiled along with the others, and took a bite of the cake. It felt like I was swallowing my dignity, my self-worth, my entire sense of self. And it burned. It burned all the way down. Madison was smiling, oblivious to the storm that was brewing inside me. My family continued to laugh, to praise her, to congratulate her. And in that moment, I knew I was done. Tomorrow, I would leave. It was over. No more pretending, no more playing along. I had been her fool for long enough. The night dragged on. the conversation floating around me like background noise. I don't even remember how it ended. I just remember the realization that had settled deep inside me. Tomorrow, everything would change. I would stop being the man who bent to her will, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace, even if it was fleeting. It was the calm before the storm, and I was ready to face it. The house was still, eerily so. Madison's soft breathing beside me was the only sound in the dark room, a lullaby I used to find comfort in. But tonight, it only reminded me of how trapped I had become. The weight of the night before pressed on me, the moment when I realized that I could no longer pretend. I had been swallowed whole by the life she had built for us, and I wasn't sure if I could keep living like this. I stared at the ceiling, my heart pounding, my mind racing. It felt like I had reached my breaking point. Everything, the lies, the manipulation, the constant tug of war inside my mind had led to this moment. I wasn't going to do it anymore. I wasn't going to let her break me. The glow of the alarm clock on the nightstand read 3:12 a.m. I hadn't slept a wink. It was already morning. The idea of facing another day in this house, living this lie, was suffocating. Madison would wake up in a few hours, probably with that same sweet smile on her face, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just threatened me the night before. But not today, not tomorrow. I gently slid out of bed, the creak of the mattress a quiet betrayal of my intentions. I moved slowly, carefully, like a man who knew exactly what he had to do, but couldn't bear the noise of the world he was about to leave behind. I didn't want to wake Madison. I didn't want to hear her tearful pleas or her cold accusations. I didn't want to explain or apologize or beg for her understanding. There would be no explanations, no justifications. I had nothing left to say to her. She had made it clear last night. If I didn't comply, I would be left with nothing. I walked to the kitchen, the silence of the house wrapping around me like a shroud. The only sound was my feet on the cool tile floor, each step heavier than the last. The note was already half formed in my mind, and as I opened the drawer to grab a pen, I felt the sharp finality of what I was about to do. I had to leave. I had to take control back, even if it meant walking away from everything I thought was mine. I wrote it quickly, not overthinking it. Keep the bacon, I'm out. It was simple. It was enough. It was the final strike against the life she had built for us, the life she had controlled. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, right where she would see it. The simplicity of it almost made me laugh. It was nothing like the dramatic exits I had imagined in my head. There were no tearful goodbyes, no emotional confrontation, no last-minute pleas, just a final clean break. I turned and grabbed a bag, stuffing only the essentials, clothes, toiletries, my phone. I didn't need much. I wasn't coming back. There was no point in dragging things out. I walked out the door as quietly as I had entered it. The house felt colder now, more distant. The weight on my shoulders lightened with every step I took toward the car. I didn't even look back. I pulled out of the driveway and didn't stop until I reached the nearest airport. Denver, a fresh start. A new city where no one knew me, no one knew her. I wasn't running away. I was finally escaping. Escaping from the suffocating life I had built with Madison, the life she had manipulated me into. I bought a one-way ticket. I didn't even look at the departure time. I didn't care. I just needed to get out. Once on the plane, I sat in silence, the hum of the engine drowning out my thoughts, the feeling of weightlessness finally giving me a sense of freedom. It felt like I was shedding an old skin, like I was finally leaving behind the man who had been swallowed whole by Madison's demands, her manipulation, her control. When the plane landed, I didn't feel nervous. I felt like I had just taken the first step toward reclaiming who I was. I could breathe again. I checked into a cheap hotel near the airport. I didn't need anything fancy, just a place to rest, to regroup. And then I turned my phone on. I hadn't checked it since I left, but as soon as I saw the 151 missed messages from Madison, I couldn't help but feel a pit form in my stomach. Some were angry, some desperate. The first few were from her. Where are you? Answer me. Logan, this isn't funny. What's going on? Please come back. I didn't mean what I said. I was just joking. Please, I'm sorry. I need you. My fingers hovered over the screen as I scrolled through them, my heart cold and distant. I didn't respond, and then the text started to shift. The guilt-laced messages, the pleading ones, the accusations. You've ruined everything. I'll make sure you regret this. You're a coward for leaving like this. You'll see, Logan. You'll regret walking away. It didn't hurt. It didn't even faze me. I had spent years trying to convince myself I could fix this, that if I just gave more, if I just played the role she wanted me to, it would all be okay. But that was over now. Instead of responding, I opened the blinds and stared out at the city, the lights shimmering in the distance. There was something peaceful about the chaos of a city like this. So many people living their lives, so many people lost in their own struggles. I wasn't alone anymore. I wasn't her puppet anymore. I sat back in the chair, my phone still buzzing with her calls and texts, and I let it ring. The peace in the silence, in knowing I had made the right choice, was all I needed. I wasn't going back. Not this time. Tomorrow, I'd figure out the next steps. But tonight, I was free, and I finally felt like myself again. It's funny how you can live with someone for so long, share a life with them, and yet not truly know them. Or maybe I had known Madison all along, and I'd just chosen to ignore the signs. Maybe I wasn't as blind as I told myself I was. Either way, that was the moment when everything I had buried for so long started to rise to the surface. When I realized how deeply she had betrayed me. Not just with her affairs, but with her manipulation, with the way she made me question my own worth. And all of it came crashing down when I found the messages. It had been a few weeks since I left Madison, and Denver, though unfamiliar, was starting to feel like home. The weight of leaving was still there, lingering at the back of my mind, but every day I spent away from her, I felt a little more myself again. I had begun setting up a new life, new job interviews, new routines, a fresh start. But then, I went back to my hotel room one evening after an interview, sat on the bed with my laptop open in front of me, and found her email. I had been so careful to avoid anything that might tie me back to her. I had taken steps to sever every link, changing accounts, deleting old contacts. But there it was in my inbox, as if it had always been waiting for me. It was an old email thread between Madison and Jason. The name felt like a punch to my gut. Jason. I knew him. I had met him a few times at social events, always laughing at his jokes, shaking his hand like everything was normal. But this was anything but normal. I clicked it, and the world around me seemed to stop. The first message was a simple one, dated about a year ago. Madison's tone was so casual, almost affectionate. I missed you last night. Can't wait to see you again. You know how to make me feel alive. I blinked, the words sinking into me like acid. My stomach flipped. My mind tried to deny it. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it didn't mean what I thought it meant. But as I scrolled further, Madison's response to his reply made it clearer. I can't stop thinking about you. You make me feel like I'm living outside my own skin. I never want this to end. I leaned back in my chair, breath catching in my throat. Every word from her felt like a knife twisting deeper. I had always suspected something was off. I had always known she wasn't the woman she portrayed herself to be. But this was the confirmation I didn't want, the proof I couldn't deny. As I continued to scroll, I found more messages, more intimate, more explicit. I can't wait to see you tonight. What would your husband think if he knew? The realization hit me like a slap to the face. Not only had she betrayed me, but she had done it with someone who had been so close to our lives. I paused, fingers trembling as I scrolled through the conversations. There it was, a message from her, dated just weeks before I left. It was clear now that the affair hadn't been a brief fling, but something far more insidious. She had been having an ongoing affair with Jason for months, maybe even longer. Every intimate message, every carefully worded exchange, painted a picture of a woman who had been living two lives, and one of those lives didn't include me. I'm still not sure how I'm going to tell Logan about us. I froze. How I'm going to tell Logan, not if, how. That was the moment the last shred of denial slipped away. I wasn't just the victim of an affair. I was the victim of a woman who had manipulated everyone around her, including me, into believing I was the problem. I had been the one blamed for everything. Every fight we had, every falling out with friends, every time my family questioned my worth. It was me, always me. I was the one who couldn't keep up, who couldn't understand her, who made mistakes. But here it was, the truth I had buried so deep inside, the truth I refused to see. Madison had used me. She had used me to further her career, to maintain her image of the perfect family, to cover up the messes she'd created with her lies. And I had been too blinded by my love, by my need to please her, to see what was really happening. I clicked on the final message, the last one between them. Madison had written it the night before I left. "You're right, I can't keep doing this to Logan. He's too trusting, too naive. But don't worry, once I tell him the truth, he'll understand. He always does." I slammed the laptop shut, my heart pounding in my chest. That was it. The final straw. I had spent years trying to make her happy, trying to be the husband she wanted, trying to be the man she needed. I had let her manipulate me into believing I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't worth her love. But now I knew the truth. She had never truly loved me. She had never seen me as an equal. I had been nothing more than a pawn in her game, a tool to make her life look perfect. And now, finally, I was done. I had been willing to forgive her so many times before, to ignore the whispers, to stay quiet and play the part she wanted. But this was the moment I couldn't come back from. I couldn't be the man who kept putting up with it. I couldn't be the fool anymore. I thought about calling her, confronting her, but I already knew what she would say. She would apologize, shed some tears, and beg me to come home. But the truth was, I wasn't going back. I had already left behind the man who believed in her lies. That man was gone. I stood up and walked to the window of the hotel room. The city lights stretched out before me, like an endless sea of possibilities. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I wasn't going back to her. I had broken free, and there was no going back. I spent the next couple of days in a daze, still reeling from the discovery and everything it meant. The world around me felt like it was shifting. Everything I once thought was solid and stable, suddenly crumbling. It wasn't just Madison's betrayal that hit me. It was the fact that I had spent years in this relationship, believing I was the villain, believing I wasn't enough, when the truth was staring me in the face the entire time. I couldn't let this go. I had to do something. That's when I called Daniel Knox. Daniel wasn't just any lawyer. He was a family law specialist, and I'd known him for years. He had represented a friend in a bitter divorce, and I'd always respected his calm demeanor and thorough approach. I didn't know exactly where this was going to go, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let Madison get away with what she had done. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I sat in my hotel room, my legs bouncing nervously as I dialed his number. The phone rang twice before he picked up. "Logan." Daniel's voice was smooth, professional. "What can I do for you?" "Hey Daniel, it's Logan." "Logan, it's been a while. How's everything going?" I didn't know how to answer. The truth was everything was falling apart, but I didn't want to get into all of it yet. "Actually," I started, trying to steady my voice, "I need your help. I need to talk about a divorce." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear him processing it, his mind already working. "Okay," Daniel said, the calmness in his tone never wavering. "What's going on?" I told him everything. About Madison's manipulation, the affairs, the lies. How she had systematically broken me down, made me believe I was the problem. How I had always been there for her, supporting her, trying to be the perfect husband. How she had used me, twisted my love for her into something toxic. When I finished, there was a long silence. "I'm sorry to hear that, Logan," Daniel said, his voice softer now. "No one should have to go through something like that. But I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. We can fix this." He said "we," and it made something inside me stir. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as powerless as I'd always felt. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, running a hand through my hair. "I thought I had it all figured out, you know? But now, I just feel lost." Daniel's voice was steady, reassuring. "You're not lost. You're just at a crossroads. You've been manipulated for too long, Logan. It's time to take control. If you're serious about moving forward, we can make sure Madison doesn't walk all over you anymore." I let out a breath, feeling the weight of the words sink in. It was time to take control. "All right," I said, sitting up straighter in the chair. "What do we need to do?" "Well," Daniel began, "first, we need to gather all the information we can. I'll need any evidence you have about her infidelities. Texts, emails, anything that proves she's been unfaithful. I know it's hard, but the more evidence we have, the stronger our case will be. We'll also need to start looking at the financials. You mentioned that she's controlled the money side of things, right? I'll need full access to any bank statements, account records, or assets." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I have everything. I've been keeping track of her spending. I'll send you what I have. Good, Daniel said. Now, I also recommend you talk to a cyber expert. If Madison has been hiding anything, especially digitally, we'll need someone who can dig into her phone, her laptop, anything. We'll make sure we leave no stone unturned. I blinked at the mention of a cyber expert. A cyber expert? Yeah. You'd be surprised at how many people hide their secrets in the digital world. If she's been deleting anything or communicating with anyone she shouldn't be, we'll find it. All right, I said, taking it all in. I'll do that. Great, Daniel replied. We'll start building a case. Once we have all the evidence, we'll file for divorce and make sure you're protected. No more living in her shadow. We'll make sure she doesn't get away with this. I could feel the fire building inside me again. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was doing something for me. I wasn't just playing along anymore. I was taking control. I'm in, I said, my voice firm. Good, Daniel said. This is going to be a long road, but we'll get through it. And don't worry, Logan, you're going to be all right. I hung up the phone with a sense of purpose that I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I wasn't running away from Madison. I was running towards something better. I wasn't going to be her victim anymore, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let her get away with destroying me. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my childhood friend, Jacob, the one I knew had the cyber expertise I needed. He was a tech genius, and if anyone could help me gather more evidence on Madison, it was him. Hey man, I need your help with something. Can you look into Madison's accounts? I need everything. Texts, deleted stuff, anything I can use. It's urgent. A few minutes later, I received a reply. Got it. I'll start digging. The pieces were falling into place. I wasn't just a passive player in my life anymore. I was the one making the moves. And for the first time in years, I could finally see the path ahead clearly. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. This was about reclaiming my life. And nothing, no one, was going to stop me. It was a week later when Madison called. I had been expecting it, but that didn't make it any easier. Her tone was different this time. There was no sweetness, no charming fake apologies. It was cold, transactional, like she was setting up the next step in her game. Logan, she said when I answered, her voice sharper than I remembered. I think we need to talk. I've been trying to reach you, and you're not making this easy. I leaned back in the chair, the phone pressed to my ear, feeling the weight of her words. We've talked enough, I replied. I'm done playing your games. There was a beat of silence. Then she laughed, but it was hollow, almost mocking. Oh, Logan, you think this is a game? You think you've won? You're the one who's throwing everything away. You're the one who's going to lose. I'm not losing anything, I said, my voice steady. I'm finally done with you. Her tone shifted then, from mockery to something more sinister. You don't know what you're doing. You're about to make a huge mistake. You think you can walk away from everything we've built? You're nothing without me, Logan. I made you. I gave you everything. I felt a twinge of anger, the old familiar feeling bubbling to the surface. But this time, I didn't let it control me. This time, I was in control. That's where you're wrong, Madison. You didn't give me anything. You took everything, but not anymore. Her voice softened, almost pleading now. Logan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean all those things. Please come back. We can fix this. I could almost picture her on the other end of the line, her hands clasped in front of her. The sweet smile she used to put on for others now turned inward as if trying to reel me back in. But I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. And we can't fix this. Not when you've been lying to me and everyone else for so long. There was another pause, this one longer than the others. Then her voice, quieter, more resigned, came through. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. I hung up without another word. The next night I agreed to meet her for dinner. She wanted to talk face to face, to try to convince me to come back. I knew exactly what she was going to try. She would apologize, beg for forgiveness, play the victim. She always did. But this time, I was prepared. I had nothing left to lose. I showed up early, sitting at a quiet corner booth in the restaurant, scanning the menu more out of habit than hunger. I wasn't here to eat. I was here to end things, once and for all. When she walked in, Madison looked the same, perfectly put together, as always. Her dark hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail, her sharp cheekbones highlighted by the dim lighting of the restaurant. She was the image of success, the image of the woman I had once loved. But beneath that perfect exterior, I knew who she really was. And I wasn't fooled anymore. She smiled when she saw me, her lips curling up into that familiar, practiced grin. "Logan," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "You look different." "Different how?" I asked, not meeting her gaze. I could feel the old dynamic between us, the power she used to hold over me, but it was weaker now, fainter. "Like you've finally woken up," she said, her voice low, almost coy. "I told you, Logan, you don't have to do this. We can work it out. We always do." I met her gaze then, my eyes cold, unwavering. "Not this time, Madison. You've crossed the line one too many times. I'm done." She tilted her head slightly, her expression shifting from the soft, coaxing smile to something darker, more calculating. "I don't think you understand the position you're in, Logan. You're walking away from everything. Everything I've given you. You think you can survive without me? You'll be nothing. You'll have nothing." I leaned in slightly, my voice low but firm. "You didn't give me anything, Madison. You took from me. You took my self-respect, my dignity, my worth, and you took from me in a way that I'll never get back." Her eyes flashed, the mask of control slipping for a second. "You really think you're in control now? You really think you have the upper hand?" she asked, her voice rising, her mask cracking for just a moment. "I do," I said, cutting her off before she could spiral. "I have the upper hand now, Madison. I've seen the truth. You've used me, manipulated me, and turned me into someone I didn't even recognize. But not anymore." She leaned back in the booth, her shoulders stiffening, a bitter smile curling on her lips. "You're a fool. Do you really think you're going to get away from me that easily? You have no idea what I'm capable of. You'll regret this." I didn't flinch. I didn't back down. "I'm already free. I'm done being your pawn. And I'm done being the bad guy in your story." Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw the crack in her armor. But she quickly recovered, straightening up, smoothing her clothes, and putting on that perfect icy smile again. "I'll make sure everyone knows the truth," she said, her tone cold and calculating. "You're gonna be the one everyone talks about, Logan. You'll be the one everyone feels sorry for. But don't worry. I'll make sure you get what's coming to you." I stood up, leaving the check on the table between us. "You can't hurt me anymore. Not with your lies, not with your games. And I'm done listening to you." Madison didn't say anything as I turned to leave, but I could feel the tension in the air, the weight of everything unspoken between us. As I walked out of the restaurant, a strange sense of peace settled over me. This was it. It was over. The final step was done. I had taken control back. And nothing could make me turn back now. The next morning, the storm began. I woke up to a phone buzzing nonstop. The vibrations felt like a physical assault as my phone lit up with notifications from Madison. I glanced at the screen. 151 missed messages. The number was absurd, but not surprising. Madison always had a way of overwhelming you, drowning you in her demands, her anger, her guilt trips. But today, I wasn't the man who would answer. Today, I was the man who had finally walked away. I swiped through the messages one by one without a hint of remorse. "Where are you? Answer me. I swear to God, Logan, you don't know what you're doing. If you think this is over, you're wrong. I'll make sure everyone knows what a coward you are. I'm done playing these games. You'll regret this. You'll see." I read each one as it flashed on the screen, the words losing their power with each new message. The threats, the accusations, the desperate pleas, they all felt so hollow now. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. She still didn't get it. She still thought she had control. She thought I would come crawling back, like I always did. But this time was different. There was no shame left in me. There was only freedom. I let the phone go silent, the screen dark, and I leaned back in the uncomfortable chair in my temporary hotel room. The text messages stopped. Then the phone rang. Madison's name flashed across the screen, but I didn't answer. I wasn't going to let her drag me back into the chaos. Not this time. When I didn't pick up, the next message came in. "You don't even care about what we built. Fine. But you'll regret this. Just wait. I'll make sure of it." I took a deep breath. I was done. Her threats didn't scare me anymore. They had no power over me. They were just her way of trying to hold on to the control she once had over me. My phone buzzed again. A call from Daniel. I answered without hesitation. "Logan," Daniel's voice was steady, businesslike. I've got the paperwork ready. We'll file the divorce petition as soon as we've got everything in place. How are you holding up? I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees. I'm fine. It's a lot to take in, you know? I feel like I'm just waking up from a nightmare, but I'm not sure if the nightmare is over yet. Daniel's voice softened slightly, understanding in his tone. It's going to be a long road, but you're doing the right thing. You've taken control. You're not the villain in this story, Logan. You're the one who's been wronged, and it's time to take your life back. I exhaled slowly, feeling a small weight lift from my shoulders. For so long, I had carried the burden of guilt. I had been made to feel like I was the one at fault, the one causing all the problems. But Daniel was right. I wasn't the villain. Madison was. Okay, I said, standing up and pacing the small room. Let's do this. Let's make sure she can't pull me back into her web. I'm not going back, no matter what she says or does. I'm done. I'll get started on the filing, Daniel said. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. Stay focused. The more distance you put between yourself and her, the better. I'll take care of the legal side of things. You just take care of yourself. We ended the call, and I sat in the silence of the room, the weight of what I had just committed to settling over me. It was real now. There was no going back. Madison was going to try to tear me down. I knew that. She was a master manipulator, and I had no doubt she would stop at nothing to try and make me the villain, but I wasn't going to let her anymore. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A new message, this time from an unknown number. I hesitated before opening it. I already knew what to expect. Logan, I know you're angry, but you don't have to do this. I'm sorry. Please, let's fix this. We can work things out. Just come back. I need you. I stared at the message for a long time, the words feeling like a slap to my face. She was sorry. She needed me. But where was she when I needed her? Where was she when I was drowning under the weight of her manipulation, her lies, her control? I set the phone down, not bothering to respond. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. There was nothing left to fix. The rest of the day was a blur. Calls to Daniel, setting up appointments with my new lawyer, making arrangements for my future. It was exhausting, but it felt good. It felt like I was taking steps toward reclaiming my life, toward reclaiming who I was. By evening, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Madison. I glanced at the screen and immediately hit ignore. She could text all she wanted. She could try to manipulate me, guilt-trip me, threaten me all she wanted, but I wasn't picking up. I needed peace. But as the evening wore on, something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed one more time, but this time, it wasn't Madison. It was my old friend Jacob, the one I had reached out to for help with the digital evidence. He had always been good with technology, and when I'd asked him to dig through Madison's digital life, I hadn't expected much. But now, as I read his message, I realized how wrong I had been. I found something. It's worse than I thought. Madison's been hiding a lot more than I expected. We need to talk. My heart skipped a beat. What had he found? What else was she hiding? I closed my eyes, the weight of the moment sinking in. Madison wasn't just a manipulator, she was dangerous. And now, I was going to have the proof to make sure she couldn't destroy me. I wasn't just fighting for my freedom anymore. I was fighting to make sure she never controlled me again. Tomorrow, everything would change. The fight had just begun. The message from Jacob was still fresh in my mind when I woke up the next morning. I couldn't shake the feeling of unease gnawing at me. What had he found? What was Madison hiding? I didn't know, but I had a sinking suspicion that, whatever it was going to make everything I had learned about her seem trivial in comparison. I had spent most of the night in the hotel room, restless, staring at my phone, waiting for another message from Jacob. Nothing. But I knew he was working, digging deeper into Madison's secrets. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this fight, this divorce, wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about exposing Madison for who she truly was. I had a meeting set up with Daniel, the lawyer, to go over the next steps in the divorce proceedings, but I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about Madison, how she had tried to manipulate me, how she had used me for years, and how she was now trying to pull me back in with her sweet words and false apologies. I wasn't going to let her. By the time I walked into Daniel's office, I was already on edge. The tension in my chest hadn't gone away, and I could feel my heartbeat racing in my ears. "Logan," Daniel greeted me with a firm handshake as I walked in. "Good to see you. I've got some updates, but first, how are you doing?" Honestly, I sighed, sitting down across from him. I'm doing okay, but I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Madison is trying to manipulate me again. She's sending texts, calling me, trying to get me to come back. And I know it's all part of her game. But the worst part is, I don't even know what else she's hiding. Daniel nodded, his face serious. I get it. That's why we're gathering evidence. The more we have, the stronger our case will be. This isn't just about a divorce, Logan. It's about making sure she doesn't continue to control you, doesn't continue to ruin your life. Exactly, I said, leaning forward. I'm done being her victim. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his fingers tapping the desk as he thought for a moment. You're doing the right thing, but we need to be strategic. I've already filed the paperwork. The divorce is moving forward. We're waiting for Madison to respond, and once we get her answer, we'll move quickly. We're going to make sure you come out of this with everything you deserve. I nodded, but my mind kept drifting back to Jacob's message. You said you had updates too? Daniel reached for a folder on his desk, opening it to reveal a series of papers. We've got the financials in order, and I've been reviewing Madison's assets. I've also got a list of her accounts and some interesting information. There's more money in play here than I think you realize. She's been hiding assets, Logan. That hit me like a punch in the gut. What do you mean? Hidden assets? Daniel leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. It looks like she's been funneling money into private accounts that aren't listed in your joint assets. It's all very clean. On the surface, it looks like her personal savings. But it's not just savings. It's money she's been hiding, probably from you. My stomach twisted. She's been hiding money from me this whole time? Looks like it, Daniel said, flipping through the papers. And that's just the beginning. There's also evidence that she's been diverting funds from your business, manipulating you into covering things she should have been handling herself. And it doesn't stop there. What else? I asked, my pulse quickening. Daniel hesitated for a moment, clearly weighing his next words carefully. We found evidence of something else, Logan. Something a little more personal. There are recordings, messages, texts, emails that point to her relationship with Jason being much more than just an affair. It's ongoing, and it looks like she's been hiding it from you for months, maybe even longer. My hands clenched into fists. The anger I had been suppressing for so long threatened to boil over. She's been lying to me about everything, I said, my voice low, steady. She's been playing me for a fool, making me think I was the one at fault. She's been living two lives, and I've been the one paying the price. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes focused. This is what we need, Logan. You're not the only one who's been manipulated. Madison's been lying to everyone, including herself. And now, we've got the evidence to show just how deep this goes. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me. For the first time in months, I felt a shift inside me. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was in control. I wasn't the victim. I was the one holding the cards now. I want to hit her where it hurts, I said, my voice calm but firm. I want to make sure she can't do this to me, or anyone else, again. I want her to face the consequences of her actions. You're in the right place, Daniel said. We'll make sure that happens, but first, we need to get ahead of her. This is where the hard part starts. She's going to try everything she can to control the narrative, but with what we have, we can make sure she's held accountable. I nodded, the anger in my chest giving way to something more solid, more determined. Let's do it. I'm ready. As I left Daniel's office, the weight on my shoulders felt a little lighter. The path ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. I wasn't alone in this anymore. I had a plan. I had a team. And most importantly, I had the truth. Madison was going to try to spin her lies, to twist everything back in her favor. But she wasn't the only one with power anymore. This was my fight now, and I was going to win. As I walked back to my hotel, my phone buzzed in my pocket again. I hesitated for only a second before pulling it out. Another message from Madison. You can't do this to me, Logan. Don't you see? We're supposed to be a team. Please come back. I need you. I didn't even read the rest. I didn't need to. I was done with the games, done with her manipulations. This was over, and there was no going back. It had been a few months since I had walked away from Madison, and I was starting to feel the weight lift. My life in Denver had slowly become my own again. I was still settling into the rhythms of the city, new job, new apartment, new freedom. But each day felt like a small victory, a piece of me returning that I hadn't realized I'd lost. The divorce had gone through faster than I expected. Madison fought it, of course, trying to manipulate the narrative, but with the evidence Daniel had gathered, she didn't stand a chance. The hidden assets, the ongoing affair, everything was laid bare. And when I finally saw the papers finalized, when I realized the life I had spent so many years holding on to was officially over, it wasn't relief I felt. It was something else, something unexpected. I had spent so much of my life trying to be the man Madison wanted, trying to fit into the life she had built for us. And now, for the first time in years, I was just me. I was standing on my own, and I wasn't looking back. The evenings were the hardest. The silence of the apartment sometimes pressed down on me, like the world outside was too loud and I was too small to navigate it. I found myself drifting through old hobbies, reading, playing guitar, things I had given up on when Madison had consumed every ounce of my attention. I was rediscovering the person I used to be, the person I had forgotten in the fog of that marriage. One evening, after a particularly brutal week at work, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The city had a strange, calming energy at night. The way the streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk, the way people moved in their own little bubbles. It was different here, faster, busier, but it also felt like I was free to exist without anyone expecting anything from me. I wandered for a while, just letting my thoughts drift, until I reached a small cafe on the corner. It wasn't a place I usually went, but the warmth from the window and the soft murmur of voices inside felt inviting. I pushed open the door and stepped in, the familiar smell of coffee beans and freshly baked pastries filling the air. The barista behind the counter smiled as I walked up. "What can I get you?" "Just a coffee black," I said, running a hand through my hair. As I waited for my drink, I looked around. The cafe wasn't busy, just a few people, heads buried in books or laptops. And then, as I scanned the room, my eyes caught something that made me freeze for a second. Claire. She was sitting at the back table, sipping from her own cup of coffee, her dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail. She was reading a book, the kind of person who looked content just being in a quiet place. She caught my eye for a second, and a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. I blinked, not sure if I had imagined it. I'd met Claire a couple weeks ago. She was a friend of a friend, someone I'd bumped into at a get-together. We'd talked for a while, mostly about nothing important, music, books, the weather. But I'd felt something I hadn't expected, comfort, a feeling of being seen for who I was, not what I was supposed to be. "Hey, Logan," she said, her voice soft but warm. "What's up?" I felt a weird flutter in my chest at the sound of her voice, something I hadn't felt in ages. It wasn't a crush or infatuation, it was just easy. "Hey, Claire. I didn't expect to see you here." She shrugged and patted the empty chair across from her. "I come here often to read. It's quiet. It helps me think. But it looks like I'm not the only one who needed a break." I laughed softly and took a seat, the weight of the past few months, of Madison, of everything I'd walked away from, still there, but not suffocating me anymore. It felt like a step forward. We talked for a while, about life, about random things, like we had when we first met. But this time, there was a different energy between us. It wasn't just small talk. It was real, honest. And I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't expected. "You know," Claire said after a while, "you seem like you're doing better. I mean, I'm sure it hasn't been easy, but you seem lighter." I nodded slowly, taking a sip of my coffee. "Yeah, I guess I am." I didn't realize how heavy everything was until I walked away. But it feels good, like I can breathe again. Claire smiled, her eyes warm. "Good for you. You deserve that." The words settled into me in a way I hadn't anticipated. For the first time, someone saw me. Not as the husband of Madison, not as the guy who had been lost in a toxic relationship for too long, but as me, Logan, the person I had almost forgotten about. We sat there for a while longer, the conversation flowing easily, as if we had known each other for years. It was strange how quickly it felt comfortable, how natural it was to be with her. There was no pressure, no expectations. Just two people sharing a moment of peace, something I hadn't known I needed. As we said our goodbyes and I left the cafe, I felt something stir inside me, a quiet hope I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. It wasn't just about her. It was about me, about reclaiming parts of myself I had forgotten existed. Maybe it was too soon, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty for wanting something new, something real. I wasn't defined by the years I had spent with Madison or by the mistakes I had made. I was Logan, just Logan, and that felt like enough. I wasn't looking for a rebound or for anyone to save me. I was saving myself. But Claire, with her easy smile and the way she made me feel seen again, was a reminder that maybe there was more to life than the weight I had carried. Maybe, just maybe, there was room for something new. And as I walked back to my apartment, the city lights flickering in the distance, I realized that I was no longer waiting for my past to catch up with me. I was moving forward, and that felt like the beginning of something good, a new chapter,